Right, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hey Joe, What You Know. Delighted to be welcomed by commentator and presenter Rob Daly today. Rob commentates as the club commentator for Tottenham, and he does lots of other things as well. Champions League, Football League, you name it. Rob's on the mic. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks, Joe. Good to be here.
How's it going? Were you working at the weekend, Ipswich?
Yeah, to the Ipswich Tottenham game, and despite a wobbly start and a really impressive start from Ipswich Town, Spurs got their footing and got their two goals, which gave them that little bit of a cushion. A very Ange Postecoglou kind of performance. The goals, the way the team scored, Jed Spence, an inverted fullback, picking up the ball centrally to score. You had winger to winger goals. This is a big deal in an Ange Postecoglou team. Son setting up Johnson twice. So it feels like with the players coming back, they're just getting their footing again. It's been a bruising fixture schedule, as it has for many teams, and a difficult injury list. And I'd argue no teams had it worse than Tottenham in the Premier League this season. But it felt like a win to try and get them back in the groove a little bit. And it's 3 wins on the spin in the Premier League. So good news for the head coach and the players.
Yeah, definitely. And just tell us a bit about what it's like being a club commentator for Tottenham, and what apart from the game, obviously, what other things do you get involved with at Spurs?
I used to just very much just be on the games, home and away. I might jump on the post-match show or something to give my thoughts on the game or something like that. But the roles become a bit more all-encompassing, which I'm really enjoying. There's a pre-match show, post-match show, interviewing the players, the manager. This has been a big change in the past couple of years. We used to just have the club journalist interview, say Mourinho or Conte or Poch, as it was when I started working for the club. But now it's a big kind of pitch side production, and I'll get to ask the players. And crucially, for a lot of my research and stuff like that, I get to ask the players things that I'm really sincerely interested in, like about what they think about the tactics or their position and stuff like that. So it's actually an opportunity for me to go, but can I ask you this thing I've been so dying to ask you about? I was asking about earlier in the season, James Maddison, about the difference when he and Dejan Kulusevski both play as number 10s in the team, or what's the difference between that and the way his role and where positionally he's supposed to be, and all these things that might be, at times a bit too nuanced, but I'm sure people care about too. So that's my role has changed in that way. And we do a lot more. They built an incredible TV studio at the training ground. So we produce a lot of content there and social media videos, analyzing games and preview shows. And I get to do some other exercise some other skills that maybe having kind of focused exclusively on presenting and commentating that I'd kind of left behind a little bit.
Yeah, it's cool. I saw you with Matthew's Tell as well, with one of the
Yeah.
other Tottenham presenters doing a sit down in that said studio. Um, what's he like as a character? Tell coming over, he's only young still, obviously, but what's he like coming over from Bayern for the rest of the season? How impressed were you with him when you met him?
Yeah. He's only 19. He's extremely confident. I was told that before chatting to him. And we were conscious, that he's never been in an English speaking country and never, as it transpired, because I chatted to him after and I was like, why's your English? Where have you got your English from? And he said, it was literally just speaking to teammates. It's no lessons. It kind of blew me away. And I imagine, I've seen clips of Bayern training
Yeah.
where, you know, even prior to company coming in,
Mm.
that Tuchel and Nagelsmann would switch between English and German because it makes sense. Half the group might not actually be that fluent in German at times. So I like that about him. He was very relaxed. We try to, in those interviews, when it's not someone's first language, it might in fact be their third. I don't know if Matisse is actually stronger in German than he might be in English, but he really understood everything we were saying, gave really funny, coherent answers, told us a couple of great stories about how when Ange Postecoglou phoned him up, he was the famous Ange Postecoglou phone call you get when you sign for Tottenham now, is he was midway having his haircut. So he said this side of his hair was really awful and this side was really good. And he was really embarrassed to pick up the FaceTime. Uh, And then he was telling us this incredible story. Ben, the presenter, who's a Five Live presenter as well, had done some research about on his family roots in Guadeloupe, right? So we were asking about that, and he goes, "Oh, I go back every summer. When I go back, even though, let's be honest, he's a multi-million-pound international football star now. He puts on the wellies and the gloves, and he gets out on the farm, and he has to do work on the farm when he's back there. But he loves it when he's back there. So um, it's those little nuggets. Look, they might not necessarily come up in commentary, but it's all context. It's all understanding the roots of someone and what's important to them and their values that all, kind of layers into your work eventually. So, but I really liked him, and I think he's going to be a really important player.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And did he obviously he was teammates with Harry Kane? Did he talk about Kane to you at all, and what the influence that he might have had in him joining Spurs?
He actually did that in his signing video. He said that Harry Kane was important and that had been extremely complimentary about the club and the opportunities it get. And then there was also Wilson Odobert, who's his France under-21 teammate, who was phoning him non-stop apparently, and saying, "Oh, you've got to come here." So I think Tottenham have had their difficulties. There's no getting away from that bottom half of the Premier League table, out of both cups, so that the League Cup run was, while curtailed in impressive fashion by Liverpool. They beat United and City on the way to the last one. Beat Liverpool in the first leg, but it's a really young team.
Yeah.
I think in all the narrative about injuries and style and Ange Postecoglou sticking with his way and everything, it's lost a little bit how young the team is. It's a really, that much is made of Archie Gray and Lucas Berryvale being teenagers in the first team, but even Radu Dragusin, now out with an ACL injury, is 22. Dejan Kulusevski's 23 or 24, and you see him as a senior player. Tony Kinski, who came in, was 21. Destiny Udogi's 22. I think Porro's only 25. He feels like one of the old boys. So it's a really young team, and I think they're building something that will kind of crescendo in a few years' time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, despite the injuries, though, they've had moments, haven't they? You've had big moments to commentate on, especially that United Carabao Cup match.
Oh,
That was
crazy!
That was insane, wasn't it?
It was the craziest game. It was good. I was with Clive Allen, who's a Spurs legend, on commentary, and we just kept kind of looking at each other, going, "This is absolutely berserk." And even Spurs 3-0 up, cruising. There were a couple of errors from Fraser Forster, and there was a moment where there was a low shot at Fraser Forster, and he just booted it away, and then Son scores from a corner. It was and Johnny Evans scores his first United goal in about 58 years. Like it was a lot going on out there, but that's the thing with Tottenham. This season, even amid some of the issues and the losing runs, it's been some extraordinary wins and amazing games, and the club's just such a roller coaster. It has been since I joined in 2018 to cover the team. It's just an absolute pleasure. Like I love it. I love it. So yeah, let's see what they can do against. Hopefully, this is going out before, but see what they can do against City on Wednesday because they have City's number, it seems.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And the last time at the Etihad was probably the performance of the season, wasn't it, for Tottenham so far?
Yeah, the 4-0 win, and it said a lot about City at the time. I think subsequently we've learned a lot more about what that result said about City, about their fascinating decline. That we can all see that the age profile of that squad's a lot older. But for the drop off to be so steep, so aggressive, not kind of this, even with the Rodri injury, for it to be that,
Yeah.
is fascinating. And I think that's where you see a lot, all fans of their clubs feel like this. There's a media agenda against their clubs, that Pep Guardiola's talked about. People are desperate to see the fall of City. In many ways, I think everyone is just fascinated by it. Like, why can't you get a team to compete? Why are you losing all these games? Why did they win one match in 13? It has been a fascinating time, and again, you see those flashes of brilliance. I did the Real Madrid first leg of the Real Madrid game. They went 2-1 up. I thought Madrid were the better team at 2-1 even, but there was just so many brilliant pieces of play from City as well. And at the same time for Spurs, going back to that 4-0, you thought, oh, this is the validation of everything, and Spurs are going to go like that. And actually, Spurs went like that. The league results kind of tumbled after that, and the only win it was something like 1 win in 11 games was Southampton away. So, what did that game teach us about Spurs and City? It's difficult to say now in hindsight, but I think the fact that even Pep Guardiola acknowledges that Spurs are kind of the bogey team means that Spurs go into Wednesday night's game, and they always, the fans, for all the pessimism and all that comes with being a supporter of a club, would always go into a City game, even at the Etihad, thinking we can have a go here.
Yeah.
It's crazy, even more so than Chelsea away or Arsenal away, even when those teams have been in decline. City home and away, Spurs fans, some would argue no, but a lot would think got a chance here, got a chance of something. So,
Well, I'm sure it's going to be another special night under the lights, whatever happens. So just tell us a bit about your sort of preparation from now until then.
yeah, so I'll watch the press conferences of both managers. What's really good at the moment, Joe, is that a lot of the teams I'm covering are coming up again. So, but because I've been working on the Champions League for a TV channel in Ireland called Premier Sports, City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, I've just been covering so much. So when they come around in the Premier League, you feel like you really know the team. So it's not like I have to kill myself going, what is, I don't know, someone like Nico Gonzalez life story. Like I kind of know the deal with Nico Gonzalez at the moment. And it's just a case of really, I watched the Liverpool game on Sunday and felt I got a good understanding of City shortcomings in that game. I covered the away game at the Bernabeu. So you kind of know, and I do every Tottenham game, so I feel like I'm dialed in. It's just those little details, milestones to be aware of, team fitness things. Son's a couple of goals away from climbing up the club's all-time record goal scoring rank. So just being aware of those things, and then mainly getting to the game and kind of throwing it all out the window because the game's so good. And that's when it's really fun. Like I killed myself with the prep the other week for Man City Real Madrid, right, at the Etihad, because there was just so much to read. There was so much, it's Guardiola, Ancelotti, it's Mbappe, Haaland. There's, these are the last two winners of the competition. Are they both where they are? And then the game starts and the game takes over, and they're the best ones where you don't even have to look down at your notes. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, what did you think of the Liverpool Man City match at the weekend?
Extremely comfortable for Liverpool. I mean, it felt emblematic from a Liverpool point of view, emblematic of the majority of the season. There's obviously been the wobbles recently with the Everton game and the Villa game, neither of which I think on paper are bad results. But really, if you want to be a title winning team, you probably want to tip one of those over into a victory, certainly given the standard it's been in the Premier League. But it was everything I think we've come to expect from Liverpool. The variety in play, the defensive moments that they needed, the threat of the best player in the country right now, Mo Salah. And then City, there was some good analysis actually on Match of the Day too. I think might have been Joe Hart and Troy Deeney talking about the pace with which City play. And that drop is so interesting. I actually saw a clip the other day, Joe, of Pep's City at Arsenal. I think it was year they won 4-1 there. Early days Arteta, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought the clip was at double speed. I swear on my life, I will try and dig this out and send it to you. I was like, that can't, or at least 1.5 times. I thought that can't be the speed with which they're playing. It was, and it led to a goal. It was this extraordinary piece of play, and it was a good reminder of the level that Pep, got that City team to at one point. I think Leroy Sané's involved in the move, so it's that kind of era team.
Yeah.
But the pace with which they're playing is not there. They're not snapping into things, and they do look so vulnerable on the turnover, which is why I think if the crowd's up and Spurs have Johnson, Son, Tell, Kulusevski, Maddison, whoever, they will cause City problems big time on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. One sort of match I'm going to ask you about as a commentary is how you prepare and how big it is, especially from a Tottenham point of view, would be the North London derby. What's that like as a game to cover?
Oh, amazing. I mean, I think actually working on it has made me understand I was going to say severity, the power of the rivalry. You know, it really is something else. And even I was actually interviewed him and Son before the home one back in September, and we'd stopped rolling. And I said to him, he used to play for Hamburg, right? So I went to Hamburg's bid derby, the Nord derby, as just a spectator one year against Werder Bremen, north of Germany, and it was ferocious, right? The whole thing was amazing, like a brilliant experience. And I was saying, how does that compare, like with this? And he was like, North London derby, just easily, easily. Like he was like, he said he says you're on the coach, and I love hearing stuff like this. He's like, you're on the coach of the stadium, and it's like you can feel it, right? The energy from everybody. It's just a different game. Ange Postecoglou was very down the line. Nope, every game is the same. You know, doesn't want to get drawn into any extra bits around matches. But it's undeniable. A game like that is undeniable. So it hasn't been Spurs fixture in recent years, really, ever since the 3-0 Conte Arteta Champions League playoff game. You may remember from a few years back. Since then, it's been Arsenal's fixture because they've kind of kicked on. But an amazing, amazing game, always amazing game to cover. And even when there's feels like a bigger disparity between the two teams, it's normally pretty close. Even last year when Arsenal went 3-0 up, it went 3-2, and Spurs probably should have nicked a draw or came close to nicking a draw, despite Arsenal's brilliance in that first half. So, no, one of the best games to cover. I think Gary Neville even says it's his favourite game to cover. So there you go.
You go. And in terms of who you enjoy being next to you in the commentary box, who would you go for? I know you had some big names with you, but a Celtic game in the Champions League against Bayern last week. I suppose Spurs, it's sort of more regular co-commentators that they have, but when you go to a Champions League match, you're chatting to different former pros and different talent. What's that like, and how does that sort of keep you?
Yeah, I love hearing all the different perspectives. I mean, at Tottenham, I'm with Clive Allen, and me and him really understand each other from a contrary point of view, and we'll just talk all the time about Tottenham when we see each other. And then when I'm in Ireland and I'm working for this channel, Premier Sports, it's predominantly ex-Ireland internationals. So Shay Given, Kenny Cunningham, Gary Breen, all these guys that were part of that. Might have actors playing them in this upcoming Saipan and Mick McCarthy movie. And then there'll be people like Martin O'Neill, Neil Lennon, and Stilian Petrov. And they all have different perspectives, which is just fascinating to get. Gary, who played for Ireland and hosted Premier League teams, is always the co-com. And me and him have got a really good understanding now of from a contrary point of view, when we come in and when we don't.
Yeah.
And then I now know the things about teams that wind Gary up and what don't, and what will get someone in the studio going a little bit more. And what's nice about that gig in general is that being part of this whole program. You work in TV, Joe. A lot of this stuff is you put it out on a world feed, or it's just for highlights, or that kind of thing with TV commentary now or TV coverage. It's quite nice to be part of a whole broadcast team where stuff you say and the stuff they say all feeds into each other. So so it's great to get all those different opinions. And then when there's a goalkeeper like Shay on the show, any goalkeeping error, he'll defend them if needed. To everyone else going, that's awful, he'll go, no. So yeah, it's really enjoyable getting all those different views.
Suppose they've got to have someone sticking up for them, haven't they?
They do. They really do. They really do. But there was a brilliant one we were talking about. Did you see the Brahim Diaz goal at the Etihad when Real Madrid made it 2-2 and Ederson made a save, and then Kenny kind of nudged Shay into the it was an error kind of column. They analysed the save in great detail. And actually, when you look at Ederson, has his arms by his side. As Kenny said at the time on the show, he was like, he has his hands sellotaped to his hips or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah, he's not set like that. It looks a good reflex save because he kind of does that, but why aren't his hands like that? It's really interesting. So I love all the debate and everything as well.
Yeah, so talking of characters and sort of main characters throughout our childhood growing up, if you were to put a five-a-side team together, who would you put in your ultimate five-a-side team?
Just any players I like.
Any player you like.
Oh, I'll start with the really boring one, which is Lionel Messi. I'll put Xabi Alonso in there because I've got this thing about the way players kick a ball, that the way players move with the ball and everything, that I always find a really... I like players who have a very distinct way of moving the ball and moving around the pitch. And I always felt Xabi Alonso had this really enjoyable kind of clip way of passing it, playing a pass and everything that I love. So I'll put him in there. There's going to be no defenders here. Sorry, defenders. But there's going to be no defenders. I'm going to have Zidane, probably my favourite footballer of all time. Again, I think it's almost the elegance. You actually look at the output numbers of Zidane compared to, the guy he's predominantly compared to now, Jude Bellingham. They're nowhere near actually goals and assists, but the elegance with which he moved. And then probably I'm going to have to stick in Harry Kane. The balance of this team's all off, isn't it? But Xabi Alonso's going to have to do a lot of defensive work. But Harry Kane, I think with De Bruyne and Salah, the best Premier League player of the past 10 years. Just an extraordinary, underappreciated at times. You are Spurs supporters, but I'll actually compare him to Salah briefly in that he just always does the correct thing. And I thought that about watching Salah at the Etihad. It was like every single touch and pass and decision was almost right. The execution of a shot might not be right, but all of it is just correct. And Kane for me is like that. So I adored watching Kane. And then in goal, maybe we should just have someone funny. As a kid, I was always interested in Chilwell, right? Because he was this goal scoring. And I know you can't do that in five-a-side, but if you allow me to have rush goalkeepers and to have quite an eccentric final choice.
Yeah, I remember him.
Chilwell with Zidane, Alonso, and Messi and Kane. That's a mess. Yeah. That's a mess of a team.
I mean, you're gonna score lots of goals. Yeah, I'm not sure about the other end. That's if Chilwell stays in his goal as well.
That's it. Look, we're like Brazil 2002. We're going to win games 5-3 and 4-3 and all that. So that'll do.
Do you think we'll see Kane back in the Premier League before his career is ending?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think Harry Kane is the kind of player who will play for a long time. I think there's going to be a group of these guys who extend their careers into their late 30s. And I think Lewandowski, Benzema, thinking out loud about centre forwards anyway, who have done this so successfully. Mo Salah, I think, will be another one of those, having discussed him. But I think Kane will be another. Is he going to be able to, as he crosses over into his mid-30s, press and zip around the pitch as much as he'd like, as much as modern teams might need? Possibly not, but I still think that intelligence, that ability to drop deep, moving into a 10 position and switch passes, that won't leave him, and his penalty box instincts won't either. So, I really wanted to win a lot of stuff with Bayern Munich. I've, interviewed him a few times, and I'm such an admirer of him as a player and a professional. So I hope he gets all his trophies. And it would be tremendous to see him in a Spurs shirt. I was covering Tottenham the lockdown time when Bale came back, and it was COVID, so no one was really in the stadium. So I'd be in there with it felt like 8 people at a game, watching Gareth Bale doing brilliant things for Tottenham. He had his injury issues and everything. So, of course, it'd be nice to see him back in a Tottenham shirt one day. But who knows? Who knows? He might be like, I know I'm going to be Bayern centre forward for the next 6, 7, 8 years, and I'll win the Champions League a couple of times, and that'll see me through. So, yeah. But having worked on the Bundesliga and followed Harry Kane, I'm just always checking in to see what he's up to.
Yeah, and on the Champions League, who's yours tip to lift that this season? On the remaining teams have got.
There's 2 teams. It's Liverpool and Real Madrid. I really do think they're the benchmark right now. Even though Real Madrid finished outside that top 8, I was blown away by Real Madrid at times in that round. In that not round of 16, that knockout playoff tie, as it's now known. The level at which there was one move where Vinicius Junior had a shot saved, where Rodrigo, I think, had the shot saved. Bellingham pirouetted, span it into Vinicius. Vinicius popped around the corner to Mbappe, and Mbappe. I was just at the level of football. I was just like, this is just absolutely berserk, right? And then Liverpool are the best team in the Premier League. They're the 2. They're the two for me at the minute. And if you ask me to fall on one side or the other, I'd go Real Madrid every single time because it's what they are. You know, I was at the final last year at Wembley, and they were second best for 45 minutes comfortably. Dortmund should have been 2 up.
Yeah.
And a half time at 0-0, I could have just given Real Madrid the trophy then, you know. So Real Madrid probably. I know that's boring. You want a hot take, Joe, don't you, for this new series? You want something a bit more exciting than that, but that's the reality, I'm afraid.
Yeah, all good, Rob. I think Liverpool and Real Madrid are on the same side of the draw, so should they both get through and progress, they'll be meeting each other anyway near the business end. I suppose Liverpool fans might prefer that instead of losing the final again.
Probably, yeah. It probably feels like over 2 legs, maybe they'd have a better chance. You know, but I mean, kind of thoroughly outplayed them at Anfield.
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. But of course, there were injury issues at that time for Real Madrid and everything. So, but I don't know, Conor Bradley versus Mbappe. I don't think anyone will mind another round of that again.
Yeah, Mbappe seems to be finding his feet now as well. You know, so I'm sure
he's doing all right, Joe. He's doing all right. Yeah,
he'll kick on. He'll kick on
30
a bit
goals,
more.
isn't he, or something?
And then,
they've made it work.
Yeah,
they've made it work.
And the last one, Salah for Ballon d'Or, if he continues as he's doing.
In a non-Euro World Cup year, it depends on the outcome of the Champions League. So it will come back, you know, like Rodri won the Euros, you know, that whole thing. Oh my God. But anyway, I think it depends on the outcome of the Champions League. And if Real Madrid win it, it's hard to make Vinicius or Mbappe or Bellingham undeniable. You know, Salah will not win the Ballon d'Or on the Premier League alone, even if he breaks records. Haaland won the treble, and I thought unfairly didn't win the Ballon d'Or. So Liverpool, if Salah's going to win it, probably has to win both, and he has to play a starring role in the final. And you know, but you know, given that there's no, I don't think the international honours what you do in the international game has as high standing in the factor. I think it kind of opens it up a little bit for someone like Mo Salah to win it. But I think Liverpool would have to win the Premier League because you know Vinicius Junior and Mbappe and Bellingham are just absolutely off the charts good. But he's in the running for sure. What is it? It's February. What are you supposed to be at the Ballon d'Or for?
Talk of the town.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. So let's wait 11 months to see.
Exactly. Right, Rob. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting to you again, mate. And good luck against City on Wednesday night, Tottenham. And we will see you soon. Thanks for joining me, and like and subscribe on the link below.